Welcome to today's episode of Blending Fab, a podcast all about relationships where we explore expectations and lessons learned along the way. To keep up to date with what's coming up, be sure to follow us on Instagram at blending_fab. Let's get straight into it.
Is how did you know married life was for you?
Well, I guess I always thought it was for me, but I'll say I was in no rush. I got married kind of late. I was 38 when I got married, almost 39. So I knew it was for me, but I always knew it wasn't a rush. Like I always feel like a lot of people get into situationships that even if they're not married, you're living with somebody for 20 years or an unhealthy relationship. So my wife is the longest relationship I had, I have had up till date. But I knew it was for me, but like I said, I was in no rush. I mean, I'll say that if the right person if my wife would have come along when I was 24, then maybe so. But I also don't know if we would have been in the right people for each other at that age. So I was definitely happy. I enjoyed I enjoy being married and being a father, but I enjoyed single life. I actually enjoyed dating. I enjoyed meeting new people. I enjoyed everything that comes along with having an active dating life. But I enjoy marriage more. But I was dating and meeting people to find that person. So I always knew it would happen. I didn't have a deadline on it. I knew when the right person came along and the feeling was right, then it would be the right situation.
I like this. I didn't have a deadline on it. When the
Yeah.
feeling was right, it'd be the right situation. I also like the piece of you saying, like, if you were 24 and she came around, would you both have been in the right place to be where you are now?
Yeah.
Right? It was a lot different.
Yeah, probably not, I don't know.
Mhm.
I can't
Right,
say that.
right,
Yeah.
right. Um, Another part you shared that is, you enjoy being single. What was it about singleness? Because those of us that are on the single side, sometimes you can get antsy or impatient. So what do you think are the key points to enjoy when you are single?
To truly be single, to be honest, not to sound crass, but I dated a lot and dated a lot of people. So was always honest and said, "Hey, I'm dating several people at one time, and let's whatever you're comfortable with is how we will proceed and move." But honesty was always the best policy, and to be upfront with that. But I enjoyed, I know other people that are dating, and everybody path and journey is different in how they do it. But like I was never lonely. There was always somebody to, I live in Atlanta, and it's like 38 women to one or some crazy number. So there was always, pick up the phone, text. There was always somebody, "Hey, you want to grab dinner? You want to go to a concert? You want to do this?"
Mhm.
And not all of them were romantic. Some of them were just friends, and I don't want to say
Mhm.
placeholders, but I'm sure I was some people's placeholder till,
Okay.
I have a lot of women that I dated that I know are now happily married at this
Mhm.
point, and I wasn't that right person at the time, but I think we had a lot of fun. I think we
Mhm.
enjoyed one another's company, so I always enjoyed that, and I was always an active person. I like to be out, I like to do stuff, I like to travel, so always having, but then I always knew that the right person would come along that would check all those boxes, because there were some people that was like, oh man, this person is great when you want to turn up, go to the club, have some
Mhm.
fun,
Mhm.
but I would never want to travel with this person, or I can't talk to them about anything outside of what's in the shade room.
Mhm.
We can't talk about any real topic, but they're loads
Mhm.
of fun. I just know I don't want to be married to that person. And so, but it was important. I always try, you never want to lead anybody on,
Mhm.
um, but I always knew the right person that would check all the boxes would come along.
Mhm.
So that's why I wasn't pressed. And
Mhm.
and I know it's different as a man. I don't have a biological clock. I don't have some of those things that I know worry women, but
Mhm.
I think the part but I know the same sense I know men that are stressed about, am I gonna get married? I have friends that, am I gonna find the right one? I'm lonely. Those are the friends I say go out there and date. Like, and I did all this. This is prior to dating apps. It is so, I think it would be easier now. I'd be in trouble if I could swipe left or right to get a date. Like, I
Mhm.
actually had to walk up to you in Whole Foods and say something to you,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
I'd meet you at a conference. I actually had to,
Mhm.
you know, interact with you face to face. So
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
when I hear people say they're lonely, I'm like, man, this is the age of, you shouldn't be lonely. But I know
Yeah.
people are looking for I'm trying to find that woman that checks
Mhm.
all the boxes right away, and then we'll see where it goes. But
Mhm.
maybe that's not, maybe you shouldn't look at it that way.
Mhm.
Enjoy this person for what they have, and you never know. Um, my wife and I were set up on a blind date, so you never know who you'll meet through somebody else too. So that's why that's all important.
You never know who you'll meet through somebody else. You said so many great nuggets. So I'm going to pick your brain. Prepare yourself. The first part I want to highlight or expound on is that check all your boxes, right?
Uh,
Because the question is, were all your boxes really checked? Or were enough of your boxes checked where you feel like this is still the right one? And I say this because sometimes we'll have things in realistic or unrealistic, whichever, way it goes. But it's like, but they got so many other things that still makes me know that this is right. Was I being, selfish or like whatever thought comes to your mind? So like, what's the process of really checking all the boxes? How was that for you?
I think it was a feeling, like, how do I feel when this person,
Mm-hmm.
can we do certain things? What are their goals? I had dated a young lady. Um, Besides my wife, maybe I've only dated other people, two people seriously, and we didn't date that long, but we dated seriously. And she, from the beginning, told me, "Look, I don't want children. I'm adamant opposed to children." But she checked every other box. She was, I mean, for the most part, and fun, hang out, of all those things you would want. And I kind of told myself that, oh, maybe I can live without children. And so as that progressed, the relationship, I realized, like, no, I can't. And so many people settle. I realized, I'm like, look, am I somebody who settles? I don't have to settle for something. I don't. There's no deadline. There's no timeline. I mean, it wasn't. I don't know if it's different with women, but for me, it wasn't like my mother was saying, "Oh, I really want grandchildren. Or you need to hurry up." There was no discussion at all. So I mean, I didn't feel rushed. So when that relationship ended, it was like a relief, and I said, "Oh man, I was really about to settle for, like, you know things I didn't want, and just that person couldn't give, and they checked other boxes, but not all of them. So
Yeah.
the important thing with that is not settle, and know that,
Mhm.
be faithful. What are you
Yeah.
asking for? What are you manifesting for? Like
Yeah.
what,
Yeah.
those things are going to happen. It takes some patience, and it takes work.
Mhm.
I talk to young men and women all the time, friends of friends, and my wife and I
Mhm.
have set up a few friends on dates, but we meet.
Mhm.
I know friends now, they're like, so lonely, I don't get out of the house. Well, you don't have to wait for a date to get out of the house. Maybe you'll meet somebody. Go to
Mhm.
that. I mean, I was big on. I ate dinner alone a lot.
Mhm.
I went to movies by myself.
Yeah.
I and you'd be amazed what people you meet when you just leave your front door. And
Yeah.
so when people tell me they're never going to find anybody, I'm like, well, what action are you taking to that?
Mm.
What are you manifesting for? Do you know what you even want? And
Mm.
what action are you taking towards finding that person you want?
Mm.
And a
That's
lot of
good.
times it's none. Yeah.
That's good. Knowing yourself. Well, what are you doing to really make it happen? Because like, oh, it's going to happen, and you stay in the house.
Yeah.
It's possible, but I mean, it's higher chances if you step outside of those four walls.
Yeah. Yeah. And with dating apps, it's almost like a numbers game too for
Mhm,
guys. It's how many hundreds can I swipe left? If I swipe left 300 times, maybe I'll
mhm,
get one or two people, or maybe I'll
mhm,
get that. And
yeah,
it's not a true match or true like I
mhm,
was behind him in the grocery store and they said something funny and I said something to respond and
mhm,
it was a chemistry there,
yeah,
so that's what are you what are you working towards, because you're going to
mhm,
get what you work for essentially.
mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. The dating apps are not for the faint at heart.
Mhm.
Um, it's funny because like I was talking to somebody, it was like, "You on a dating app?" And I said, that well, the idea is that they really want to date because they're on the app, but you
Right.
still have to, vet that person, screen that person, as you get to know them to find out if they do align with what it is that you want to do. Can we talk about stuff beyond, like you said, TMZ? Can we talk about things
Yeah.
that help our minds to grow? What are our goals? And things of that sort. Um, so that's really important. And it goes back to the piece of you sharing about honesty. Once you find out what it is that you want, you can really share with the other person what it is you're looking for and not set it in as well. Because if you wanted children and they didn't want children, I was reading something today and it was talking about how oftentimes, whichever, either the male or the female, can sometimes feel like, oh, I can change their mind.
Yeah, you
Mm,
can't change people. I learned early on, like
yeah.
adults, they build prisons and people go to jail or prison. They say, look, you're in here for 10 years, do not try to break out. And
Hmm.
every day people try to break out of jail. People,
Hmm.
grown-ups are going to do what they want to do. So
Yeah.
you can't change people in that way. And then that's not fair to them. That's not fair to you,
Hmm.
because you're going into it with an expectation that's unreal.
Yes.
And if somebody did change for you, that's not fair to them. They're going to be resentful later
Mm.
on at the end of the day anyway.
Absolutely. That resentment can really bubble up,
Yeah,
and then come out the wrong time or it's the right time for them because they're like, all right, enough is enough. I don't like this,
exactly.
and that's a process. But yes, I like that of the checking out boxes, like knowing what boxes work for you, what your deal breakers. Because somebody might say, I don't want nobody that smokes, and a person comes along and they feel like they hit up other things, but that smoke is a big thing for you. You
Yeah,
have to be able to stick to your guns because that resentment in that as well will come of them coming around and always doing that, or
yeah,
whatever it is. Somebody that eats pork chops. I don't know because
yeah.
sometimes it be that
No,
simple of something that you don't like.
yeah, it's gonna build up, and things you don't like added, and you got to look for other signs. Like if you're with somebody and they, man or woman, they're like, oh, I hate my mom or I hate my dad. I have no relationship with anybody in my family, and there could be a situation where they come from trauma, but you have to get to know them well enough to know what it is. If they're just just not I dated somebody that I realize now, like I think like the superficial things, big butts and those things blinded me. But I think back, one person I dated she was a horrible person. And I think back about meeting other guys that had kind of dealt with her before, and they're like, yeah, she's mean. But she checked all the physical boxes and could be fun to hang out with. But at the end of the day, it was like I would be with um and then when I started looking at it like that, it made sense. Like this person, she looked younger, but was a little bit older than me. And think about where she is in her life and her relationships with her family and other people, and how she has no friends. It's strange when someone has no friends. Like you might have acquaintances, but there's nobody you get along. And when you start looking back, it's like, well, now I know why.
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
they entertain you for a little bit and you're just not a good person,
Yeah.
or not the right person for me, so I should say. So
Right, right. It
yeah.
makes me think of the song "Beauty's Only Skin Deep," right?
Yeah.
Because on the outside it looks amazing, but on the inside, that can mess somebody up really bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And others saying like, "Yeah, just mean." The hope is that eventually she would try to change that, or he would try to change that.
Yeah.
Because if you keep on breaking up, after a while, it's not the other person. You got to look in the mirror to find out what it is you're doing to cause that conflict, and what are you willing to change. That's when you have to change your own self if you want to be around with somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Excuse me.
Mm.
But yes.
Another part you shared in this honesty piece of, you know, going out with people, some were romantic, some were friends. How easy or hard was it to clearly explain that to those that maybe were in the friend bucket but wanted to be romantic, or in a romantic but you wanted them to be friends?
There is a gray line, and I got better at that as I got older and dated
Mhm,
more. Because you can tell somebody all you want, hey, we're just gonna be friends. We're just gonna be friends. But if you're doing things that people do in a relationship, it can
mhm.
definitely throw a mixed signal.
Yeah.
Especially, I can only speak. I've never dated men. I can only speak to women. So to
Mhm,
women, it definitely throws a mixed signal.
mhm,
And but what I did realize too is sometimes I have to make the decision for both of us, because there'd be lots of women that say, no, I'm cool with that.
mhm.
uh, But you eventually tell, like, no, you're not. I could tell you're not
Yeah.
cool with this type of
Yeah.
situation. As much as you're saying you are, I could tell this bothers you, or you're not. You don't. You want us to be fully committed, or to be in a different kind of situation. So, sometimes it requires you, being the bad guy too, and saying, look, I you're saying this, but I can clearly tell
Yeah.
this is not what you want. So, but I will say, as I got older and I met women that, different places of life too. So
Mhm, mhm.
you meet people that are coming out of something, or just that's not. I've dated all kinds of women that said they never wanted to be married,
Mhm,
which I was like, oh, that's great, and might have been had lots of fun together, and
mhm,
but they, so, and for whatever reason they didn't want to be, or you meet people that, like, look, I
mhm.
just got out of something, I'm not looking, let's just have some fun, we have great conversation, you like to do stuff, I like to do stuff, let's hang out.
Uh, uh, something you said earlier, you talked about the trauma piece, right? So
Yeah,
sometimes based on experiences that people have had, they'll say, "Yeah, I don't want to be married." Things they've seen, things they've heard, they could go into that bracket. But it takes a special somebody to make them even consider and want to change to then explore, romantically. I think the other hard part with, like how we were saying, like the gray line of that romantic and friendship, is that your friends, and which is the greatest foundation of relationships, of getting to know the person that you are,
right,
good with hanging out with them. And even in being in a friend back, you're like, wait a minute, this person has some great qualities. You get in your back, like, that's the prototype, and the other person doesn't feel that way. So then you have to have that conversation. And though it can be hard, the hope is that you can move forward with being friends, or like you said, making that decision of saying, all right, it was great to meet you. Our time now has to end. Um, because people can also get in their feelings and in their bag in a different way if they find out, oh wait, you don't want me, and then it's like, you find out a different sign. It was like, I'm glad I know now before we got any further, even if I was thinking, because it's not a good situation for me to be in.
yeah, no, I've been on both sides of the coin. I've
Mhm,
been stuck in the friend zone with somebody that I thought, oh, this could be more, and they
mhm,
didn't see it that way. I've even had situations where stuck in the friend zone, then it developed out of the friend zone,
mhm,
which was great, um but sometimes you don't, like, how many hoops does someone have to jump through to get out of and then are you just settling for me because I've been steady and reliable
mhm,
here this whole time, and as you dated half the city, and now you're like, you know what, maybe you, and but the thing is, I've been on both sides of it, so
mhm, mhm,
it's important to recognize from whatever side you're looking at, and not,
mhm.
because at the end of the day, if the person is truly your friend and you truly care about them, you don't want to hurt them.
Right,
If
right.
now it may be a situation where you can't be friends at all or anything, but you don't want
Mhm,
to hurt that person if it's somebody
right.
you truly cared about at one point.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, Definitely could get fuzzy. But
Mm.
a point that you said was jumping through hoops and things of that sort. Can we talk about what? So let's say a guy is interested in a young lady, or the young lady is interested in the guy. To what extent do you think both sides should be doing to pursue and show interest? What does that look like um, for the girl to do in your eyes, and what does it look like for the guy to do?
Man, so this is, I will say, I don't know, hard. This is different.
Mhm.
If when I was single and dating, I probably could have answered that.
Mhm, mhm,
Now in the world we live in this world of hot takes and
mhm, mhm,
and podcast takes where
mhm.
it it it
Right.
outwardly appears. I don't want to believe it because I want to believe people are. I mean, I know people are people, but I want to believe that women don't all not all women feel this way. But
Mhm.
you know, we live in a world where all we're flooded with was the list of restaurants women won't eat at, or
Yeah.
did you I need $250 to pay for a babysitter, or I need
Yeah.
$4,000 before you can even go out with me. So it's kind of, and I, in my heart of hearts, I believe those situations aren't the norm. I believe that it's still few and far in between. So that is tough because now it seems like in order to get a date, you got to show some
Right.
money or show some security, something like that. But
Yeah.
I would say for genuine people that aren't like that, for the guy to show, be honest. Hey, I'm really interested in you. I enjoy talking to
Mhm,
you.
mhm,
And we hang out the time when my wife and I were first getting together. We would spend time if it was on the phone or we were going somewhere. It would time would go so fast.
mhm.
We're meeting up for lunch at 2 o'clock and now it's like 3 in the morning. Like
Yeah.
time went so
Yeah.
fast. So you want to be with somebody where it's enjoyable and
Mhm,
you're realizing that with somebody. And I think too many times people are jumping the gun when, you
mhm.
know, you're talking about how much a date's going to cost, which maybe you shouldn't even be going on a date first. Maybe you need
Right.
to have a conversation. Maybe you need to
Yeah.
grab a cup of coffee. Maybe you need to sit in a park and
Mhm,
chat
mhm.
because you might be going dating. This date might not even be what either one of y'all need.
Right.
So, it's all about that. But if you want to pursue it and you are on a date, it's after like, hey, we had great conversation or
Mhm,
we just the little tiny boxes. Like I have
mhm,
fun. I feel like
mhm.
I feel at ease. I don't feel nervous or I don't feel, this person doesn't make me nervous or this person doesn't make me off kilter. Like I feel at peace with them. So that is a big thing. If you're seeing that, then maybe it is somebody that you take the next step with.
Yeah. Definitely agree. The list, the restaurants, the requirements to go out and things that sort. If we're realistic, right? Even if you have now decided that you are going to be with this person, you've talked, chit chat, and was like, okay, let's pursue the next steps. You still can't go out every week and spend $200 every
Yeah,
time you go out. That's not
yeah.
really wise, because there's other things you want to do. What are your goals that go beyond it? Cooking together, taking a cooking class, going to the park, grabbing a sandwich, making a sandwich, having it out at the park. It's those little things that continue to help you increase that bond. Because oftentimes some people go to the restaurant, you see them and they're on their phones. We could have did this at home, sunshine,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
I
yeah.
haven't had a date in almost 10 years, but when I have had dates or when I was dating, like I remember, I can't remember, I took a girl to a really nice restaurant here in
Mhm.
Atlanta. I'm trying to think. Two Urban Licks, I think it was. It's not even open anymore, but really nice restaurant. Had a waterfall and all these different things. And I had to get reservations like 2 weeks ahead of time. And we sat there and she was like, wow, this is sensory overload, is what she said. She's like,
Mm.
I'm not comfortable here. Can we go somewhere else? Can we go somewhere a little less simple? I just want food. And then I've met other girls that they're like where they wanted to go to somewhere nice or somewhere fan, which is nothing wrong with that because most of the time I wanted to probably go to that same place, but it's those little things, like I said, the little check boxes. I remember dating somebody who wanted to go to the movies, and I'm a movie buff. I love the feel of movie theaters. I love going to, but I had to explain every single movie, and it wasn't even like stuff that like, and I don't think she was not bright. She just didn't get it, or she really I don't think she was paying attention. And just little things. I was like, ah, that's the kids say that's a ick. I don't like, that's not
Yes.
cool. Like I don't,
Yes.
yeah. Or you meet people that have totally different interests. I mean, now we live in such a politically charged climate. Like if
Yeah.
someone said, you know what, I'm voting for this person and I wasn't, like I don't
Mhm.
that, nowadays that may be a deal breaker. So
Right. Right.
yeah.
Yeah. It's the little things for sure. And people get so hype on the bigger things, and then we get caught, and then it doesn't work out. It's like, then the text messages afterwards, you're hearing, well, I really wasn't feeling you, or, I wasn't really feeling you. At the end of the day, it really is important to be honest if you're not looking for more, because sometimes people put their blood, sweat, and tears for their jobs to get the money that they get. So then to go out and then however it goes, sometimes it doesn't go well from hearing different stories or experiences, still being respectful to it too, because how we come back around the times we living in, you
Yeah.
gotta be careful in so many different.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like yeah, I think the whole but I think and I'm gonna sound like an old person. I think some of the dating has changed too because
Mhm.
sometimes that first date is Netflix and
Yeah,
chill or come to
yeah.
mind, and it's not even creative. Like
Mhm.
I don't know. I used to like to be creative. I like to do something that every other guy is not doing
Mhm.
if I
Mhm.
could.
Yeah.
So that makes a difference. And then you go from there. Like it's a lot of the stuff. If I was going to a dinner date or going to a movie or going to a particular part, I probably would have been going there anyway. But
Mhm.
to go there with somebody and
Mhm.
hopefully if the date didn't go well, at least the experience would be all right from
Right.
where we were going. But I think I had a pretty good filter. I very rarely, I mean, I dated a lot, but very rarely I count on one or two hands the experiences over 20 years where it's like,
Mhm.
wow, how'd I get out?
Mhm.
How'd I end up outside with this person?
Mhm.
Very rarely. So, I mean, there's hopefully some vetting on both of our ends to see if it
Mhm.
would be a
Mhm.
good match before it even went that far.
And in that vein, who were your role models to help you to have the mindset that you have when you approach women to date and to keep relationships going?
I mean, dating, I probably didn't have no good role models. It was probably like Too Short or something. It wasn't
Mhm.
like but marriage, my grandparents were married for like 60 years.
Okay.
I have aunts and uncles that have been married for 40 plus years. My mother's been married to my stepfather almost 30 years or 35 years, I guess now. So I know it can work. I saw it work. My best friend to this day that grew up in the house next door to me, his parents had been married 50 plus years. And so like I saw plenty of examples of it can work, but I always knew it was work. And I mean, even now that I'm married, I know it's definitely work, but I did have some good role models, and you even learn from the bad examples. I've seen other people in my life that can't be in a relationship, so you learn from them as well.
So good, so good. So let's talk about that transition for you from,
Mm.
single dating life to now meeting your wife. And this is before, marriage stage. How was that process for you to know, like the light bulb went off, this is the one, I am done. Uh, I don't need to be in
I
the
don't
street. No.
it the this is going to be the only one person. I'm not sure what changed or set it off, but I just had a feeling. And
Mhm.
so I kind of still remember today, but I remember telling other people like, look, um, um, it's no longer, we can no longer be this. Or I would get those calls from people, hey, you want to go to Miami this weekend? I'm like, no, I can't. I think I've found somebody, and some of them were very cool with it, and I don't think my wife, then girlfriend, wanted me still talking or hanging out with them. But some of them were like, oh, like some of them, like I said, honestly, you'd be surprised what you get when you're honest. When you tell people, look, I'm dating multiple people, and then telling those people I was dating, look, I met somebody and I think I want to be serious. A lot of the women I dated were like, "Oh, that's amazing. I hope it works. But you got my number if it doesn't work." And so, um, And then I think when we got married, I once again, I don't know, something I just I woke up and put together that I was going to get engaged, and I said, "You know what? I'm gonna make it happen within this next week, or next week or so." So I was like, "I'm gonna find a ring. I'm gonna plan out the engagement. I think it's time." And I don't know what, it was God. I'm not sure. I don't. It was just I had that feeling that the time was right, and I know what I want to do. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
that's how it happened. I'm sorry. I wish. I've been asked before, is there an exact moment? I don't know what it was. It was literally just a small voice
Mhm,
talking to
mhm,
me.
mhm.
And
And if we're honest, it was like a buildup, right? Because so many
right.
things have been going well. It's like, now is the moment.
Yeah.
When you woke up and was like, I'm going to do this, and you worked to make it happen. Another interesting part, you said it was a blind date of how you two met. How did that come about? How did your friends know you so well to say, like, I feel like Justin and
It was so my wife's friend um worked with me at the time. I'm here in Atlanta. I worked for Atlanta Public Schools, and there I'm not a teacher. I was on the instructional management side, and her neighbor came to her and said, "Hey, I think this guy you would I think you would like this guy I work with." And so I guess she had talked to her for a while. Then she came to me and she said, "Hey," she's like, "My friend and neighbor, I think you would really like her. Can I give her your number, I think?" And so said, "Sure." And so my wife probably tells the story different. My wife says she called me once and I was like, "Let me call you back." And it was like a month later. I can't remember. I know I was probably in them streets at that point. So I don't know, but I know that once we did start talking, we never stopped. So I'm not quite sure about that, but essentially we started talking, and then we agreed to meet. We had a lunch date, and then I think I want to say it was weird. We had a lunch date, and then I think it was almost like a month later we had our second date. Like we still talked some, but just our schedules weren't lining up. And then 3 weeks, a month later, we finally had a second date, and then somewhat started dating from there. Mm,
I still take it. You said that she had called you, said you had to call her back, and it was like a month that passed before you called her
right.
again. The dope part is that you still called her. It was still something that said,
Yeah.
let me still reach out to her because you shared that, you were enjoying life,
Yeah,
but it was still something that said, let me just give it a try and see what happens. And then now look where you are today. Amazing.
exactly.
Amazing. Amazing. So you shared that marriage takes work, and a lot of people are so excited to be married. They can't wait to get married. Sometimes they're more excited about the wedding, but the marriage is the part that really remains after that day. And as amazing as that day is, um, you want to last those 50 years, those 40 years, 30 years that you shared
Yeah.
those around you. What has been the best advice you've received as it relates to maintaining a marriage?
I will say, ooh, and I'm going to preface this where I am still really bad at this, but communication definitely is one of the major keys, and I am horrible at communication. If there's one thing that my wife and I disagree or fight over the most is communication. And so that and I will say that a lot of it lies on my end. So even all these years later, where you went the first 40 years of your life not communicating with anybody about good or bad things, and now you know trying to change that too. So that's important, and working on yourself is important. So before I met my wife, I was in therapy just to work out some things, and seen that same therapist for like 10 years now. So I mean, it's be getting yourself right is so important, because so many people hop into situations where you're not right. And so and then it's two damaged people trying to build something, and they just build a toxic situation. So I would say a lot of the work comes with making sure you're right, making sure excuse me, you're ready. Like when I proposed, I knew the time was right and I was ready and I was prepared and there was no looking back. Excuse me. If I had not that, since we have been committed, not that I had ever stepped outside of our commitment, but before that commitment or early on, not that I did, but if I knew that I could be tempted to, which I'm sure I was in the very beginning. Now, acting on is a different thing, but even if I knew I was tempted to, that's not the right time to say, "Hey, do you want to marry me?" Because it's just, you're building on a bad foundation. So a lot of the work comes from within, making sure you're right and making sure those things in the beginning. Do you want to have children? How many children do you want to have? My wife and I, we have a lot of things that are alike. Like we on a I don't know what date it was. We were probably um a few months into our relationship, and um I had heard about a house that was selling, and I was like, "Oh, this might be a good investment property. Can you come look with me?" And so we looked and we spent hours, and then she showed me the kind of houses she likes, like online, and then we started looking at property together, and we realized we had a lot of the same taste in interest. Excuse me. So I realized how important that is, because I have friends that have I have a friend now that is buying a house with their spouse, and they can't agree to save their life. Like she wants a ranch, he wants a traditional, and it's all these different things. They can't agree on the neighborhoods. He would like something different. She would like a area that hasn't quite been gentrified. She wants to be closer to a certain style, certain neighborhood that he is not comfortable with. So I'm glad that all these things we kind of knew, and we talked these things through. We knew what we knew what kind of school our children would go to. We knew how we would raise our children once we had them. We knew what kind of houses we liked. We knew what kind of budgeting we wanted for a house. So, all of those things are vital, because there's enough other little things that you may not agree on. So I'm glad of that we knew we agreed on all the big things prior to, even before I proposed. I knew what kind of wedding she would like. I knew what kind of, so I was good with that. So I mean, like I said, I see where people aren't on the same page. I have a friend that was engaged, and his wife's family came to him and said, "Look, we'll pay for the wedding, or we can give you guys like $50,000 to start your life off. Um, Buy a bigger house, pay off your, because he already had a house, do whatever." And so he was like, "Man, this is a wonderful gift. We could pay off student loans. We could go into this marriage debt free." And she wanted the $50,000 plus for the wedding, and they did not agree on that. And he reluctantly went along with the wedding, and now they're no longer married. So like when I see things like that, it's like, you're getting that sign. Like you have to know, and that's and I think even that time when I mentioned it to him, I was like, and his thought was, well, it's not a big deal. But yeah, it's a big enough deal, because you feel this compelled, you feel this way, and it's just gonna fester. And it did. And I mean, it festered because she knew it also festered on her end, because she knew he wasn't happy with this, big extravagant wedding. And she felt that took away from her supposed happiest day. So, you have to be on the same page with those things.
Oh, goodness, goodness, goodness. It's so important. And it goes to that communication piece. And even though you said like you're working on it, everybody's always working on communication. Friends that are watching, we're always working on communication. But the amazingness is that, when it came to the house, your wife were on the same page. With the couple who are struggling with the neighborhoods and struggling with the house style. I do encourage anybody that finds himself in that kind of situation are really writing out the pros and cons of all of that to then come to agreement, because that little, I don't want to say little, that's a big thing of where you're living at, can
Yeah,
cause a big fire down the line. And then if you can't survive it,
yeah,
unfortunately, sometimes
I
you end up
believe
right.
with that particular couple, the reason why they don't want to live in the same area, there's a large fundamental difference on how they look at things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And one person wants to go one direction, the other person wants to stay in another direction. And to me, that worries me because I like fundamentally, you guys look at life completely different and see, one person, I'm going to be here with my people, even if this is a bad neighborhood. I want to see it through. I want to be close. I'm there to help, encourage. The other person does not see it that way. Not that they they're all about encouragement and uplifting, but they don't want to live there to have to do it. And that's a huge fundamental difference. And honestly, I don't know if either one of them see that difference, at least yet. Maybe they internally they know, but yeah, that's scary. And I'm so glad my wife and I have never had that kind of difference.
Very scary, very scary. As well as with the other couple with that 50,000, like,
Yeah,
the fairy tale gets you in trouble sometimes,
yeah,
because the fairy tale is a fairy tale. It doesn't, do the lifetime. Sometimes it ends after those 5 pages of, and then it's happily ever after. And though that's amazing too, we know that sometimes it's not always happy. It's good times, bad times, and in between. And I always share, like, Hallmark and Lifetime, they'll give you these movies and they'll show, oh, they met, oh, they fell in love, they got married. But they're not really showing what really goes on in between those different
yeah,
phases. They're showing you the highlights, but it does take some work. It does take you really having some conversations of being honest. And a piece of that is really like premarital counseling. Did you and your wife do premarital counseling?
we did, yes.
Yeah. I'm a strong advocate for it. I work with couples where we do like assessments to just review some things to make sure you did really talk about everything before you say I do. Uh,
Yeah.
because
And
you gotta have these conversations. They're needed.
exactly, they are extremely needed. And I don't, that's, I'm glad we had these conversations. We dated for almost 4 years, so I'm
Mhm.
glad. Um, I'm glad we had those because if another, I'm bringing up couples I know, but another couple I know that's no longer married. Um, my friend, he was a professor, and with where he taught and what he taught, he traveled a lot, and he would go to other countries. He would travel in the world before he met his wife, and when he met his wife, he was like, "Great, I have a partner to travel with now." And I don't know how this did not get discussed until they got married, or maybe it was and he glossed it over. But while they were dating and engaged, he would still travel. She just never came with him. Then when they got married, she's like, "Yeah, I'm not." She's like, "I'm not leaving Georgia. I'm not leave. I'll fly maybe New York, but." She's like, "I'm not going to Africa. I'm not going to Europe. I'm not going to some other country." And he was so hurt and taken back. And he was like, "Why would she not? Is it me? Why does she not want to travel with me?" And I was like, "You guys never discuss this as much as you travel. You never, like, I would think, in looking for that mate, that would have been something that he wanted or turned, excuse me, that was an interest to him. Like, and of course, I'm just hearing the good things about her from him, and I had not, was not around her enough to know. But when I hear things like, I was like, what, there was no conversation before this, because like the hurt he was at, and they're no longer married as well. But and because he was so hurt, he was like, this is a part of my life. I don't want to be gone, a couple weeks here and there in a month, and then just have my wife. He's like, I want my partner to be with me.
Yeah.
They didn't have children, and it was amazing.
Oh, I'm so sorry to these couples that did not make it, but I also thank you for sharing, because it's helping
Yeah,
some of the people of the importance of having conversations. And when you shared that they got together and he was traveling, she didn't go, I was like, yep, she didn't want to go. Uh,
yeah,
so important because now it's good that she was okay with him traveling and not being a problem. But again, because that was dear to his heart and that's one of his boxes. And he thought
Yeah,
that it would get checked and then it wasn't fulfilled and then just can it just
yeah,
doesn't work out all the time.
yeah. And like I tell him, and unfortunately, he's been divorced 10 over 10 years now, but
Mhm.
and still single. And I was like, tell him like now he doesn't even look for that. He's kind of given
Mhm.
up. But I was like, man, that's a great thing. I was like, I think most women, most people in general, love somebody that's worldly
Mhm.
and can take them places and teach
Yeah.
them something they don't know. I think you just gotta look for that
Yeah.
right person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And that's a big thing too, because if it doesn't work out or it could crush you a little bit, you feel like you don't want to try it anymore. But I do too hope that he watches and he's encouraged to try again. You know, you never know what can happen. But again, you got to go outside your four walls. You got to go out.
Yeah,
Definitely an advocate of going out by myself, you know, going to movies, out to eat and things of that sort. One, I find out what I like, what I don't like, leave when I won't, you know, things of that sort, but also interact with other people. And I also enjoy people watching just a little bit.
yeah,
But it's really important in those pieces as well as working on you as you share, you know, going to therapy music to my ears because I work to really normalize the importance of us addressing mental health because we'll be like, oh, it's nothing. We might want to talk about that. See what's really going on. What's causing us to lash out like that? What's causing us to just get angry at the drop of a dime due to something and find out, oh, because when I was younger, X, Y, and Z happened. Or I was a little older and this happened. And sometimes we brush things over and it's stuff that we really need to deal with because it could cause conflict when we're trying to be in relationships of whatever type with anybody else in jobs, you know, oh, they're not going to tell me what to do. They are your employer. So, you know, you have to work those things out, but you have to be able to deal with your feelings and emotions, be emotionally intelligent to know what you are feeling so that you can then communicate that to others so that they know how to then support and be around you. And sometimes people
exactly.
listen.
Excuse me, exactly. Yes.
But therapy is good. Therapy is good.
No, therapy, I swear by therapy. Therapy is great. Like, and I mean, we still go to couples therapy is very important. At least for
Mhm.
me, I know that some of my communication issues, it always helped to have a mediator there
Mhm. Mhm.
because a lot of the times when at least I found when we finally did communicate, it was already to a point of it was some anger and it wasn't, you're saying it now, but it's definitely not received at that point because the other person is too upset that this is now they're hearing it this way or hearing it. So I found that having that mediator kind of lessened the blow and kind of got everybody to listen. And that person may ask questions. Well, how does this make you feel? Or what do you think about that? And these are things that you may not, if it's just the two of you, you may not look at it that way. So I'm definitely a huge advocate for couples therapy, couples
Yeah.
counseling as well.
Yes, yes. It's so good. I had some couples or some friends too that are like checking and tapping and like because I said, one, I don't pick sides. You already know this. I don't do that. I'm just helping you to find out where y'all happy medium is to come back together. Because I'm not going home with y'all. Y'all gotta figure it out. Y'all not gonna say, well, Jennifer said that I nope. Y'all came to that agreement with support of that mediator to help you to keep your tempers down. If you was going too far, help you calm down because we don't want to say something that we can't bring back, you know. And even
Yeah,
in our real feelings, if you love the person, you don't want to hurt them, as we shared earlier, right? So how you saying it, you want to share it, oh, you know, in a way that still lets them know that this is my feeling, how I feel, and I still love you. But I don't like when this happens because it then causes me to X, Y, and Z. And that's that communication piece of being honest that you know what your triggers are, you know what your cues are, and you're letting them know. So that if they're doing something at the table eating and they're chewing with their mouth open and they know that's the trigger for you, and then your knee starts to go, and that's your cue to know that it's really now really bothering you.
yeah,
We have to be able to have that communication to find out, oh, I'm sorry, let me close my mouth. Because sometimes you do it absentmindedly, you know. If
yeah,
you have gum in your mouth, you just chewing it before you know it, you popping it. And then it's like that Medea moment here, stop popping that gum. Everybody don't, you know, receive that well. So being open to knowing who you are and expressing to others what it is you need to flourish and be who you're trying to be.
exactly.
Mm. Good, good, good. Now, I do want to go to another part you said because earlier you talked about how, it's different for ladies and, biological clocks and things that so it wasn't a rush for you. And you made a comment that you didn't have nobody ask you like when you was having kids and things. So I just wanted to do a public service announcement to the aunties because that's a famous question I always want to ask the ladies when you're having kids, when you get married at the holidays and things. And I felt some type of way. I wanted to just air that out to the aunties that are watching. It goes both ways. Why y'all
Yeah,
not getting them like y'all be on us? So, but yes. But
yeah.
now you are a parent. How has that process been? Like from marriage to
Oh,
now being a parent?
that process has been great. I'm so glad that we did it the way we did it. I am glad that we were married. Um, we were married for almost 2 years before we were pregnant. I'm glad that we didn't have I didn't have any babies ahead of time. I'm glad that they were all with my wife. It's such a I can't imagine doing it a different way. Like it was like to me, and I will say, when my wife hears that, hopefully she would agree. But I think I am more of the patient one, and I know things are going to happen. I just always know they're not on my timeline. But right before we got married, we were saving for our wedding, so we moved out of the condo we were renting, and we actually right after we got married, we actually lived with my wife's mother for a little bit, and it was a lot. So we were saving and trying to go to the house. I know she was worried. I'm like, look, I just know it's going to work. So I love the fact that we got married. Then a few months after we got married, we found the house that we really wanted. It all fell into place. We made our home, and then 2 years later, we have two little girls, and they're 18 months apart. So we had them back to back, and so it to me it worked as it should work, and I'm glad that this is the path it took. And so I have a lot of friends that you know their kids are going to college now or graduating high school this year, and they're like, oh, I'm so glad that I get to be free. But I would not want it any other way. Like, I can't imagine. These are the friends that when I was like in them streets at 21, they were at home, nursing kids. Like, I'm so glad that I got to live the life and experience I've had, because I'm not trying to be that 40-year-old guy out there in the club either. So I'm glad, and I think my life experience makes me a better father than if I was 24 and a father or 21 and a father. So I think it's made me. I was always patient, but I'm very patient, and I think I know enough about the world where I can hopefully impart some wisdom on them. So everything for me, I'm so thankful that it worked out the way it has worked out.
And that's good because again, everybody has a different calendar in their head of how they feel like things should go. But to be at ease and to be content with how it has gone, whether
Yeah,
it could have been a fleeting thought of wanting to, be married at an earlier age, not necessarily rushing it, but like once they have kids, and things like sort and the process that it gets to get there, trusting that when it's the right time, it will come along. And when it comes, it's like, I'm glad I waited, or I'm glad the path that I took. There are some that, as you were 20, they're, at home nursing and they're excited that the kids are going now, but also just being content with whatever role your life has taken you on, because
yeah,
it was the road you were supposed to go. And we compare, and we don't want to do that because it was intentional for you to go the path you did. As you share your life experiences have helped you to be more patient now. And somebody else would be like, oh no, this kid's got to go. What was I thinking? And things so not to say you don't have moments where it's like, oh, it's a lot,
yeah,
or it's a little bit more than what I thought it was, but I still got this at the end of the day is the closing loop.
yeah. And I look at it differently too, because there are like my friends that have kids that are high school or college age now that had kids right out of high school. A
Mhm.
lot of them have said to me like, man, well, now we're finally at an age where maybe we have a little more expendable cash and we can travel and do these things. Aren't Now you're stuck tied with kids. And so I don't feel that way. I think we do a lot with them. Like, I look forward to bringing them to places. So I want them to see the world as little girls. So I'm excited. I look forward to the future and traveling with them. And I'm blessed. I have two wonderful girls too that are smart and funny and so and they like to do new things. So I'm blessed there. But I look, when my friends are saying, "Oh, we're finally going to get to Hawaii," and I was like, "Well, I think we're going to go next year too." But I'm excited to bring the whole family. Like that's what I look forward to at this. So it's like and also with them, not all of them, but some people I knew that had children early and struggled. And not that we don't struggle with things right now, but it was like the remorse or regret, like, oh man, if I could have just finished college before I had the baby. And they can always go back now, and some people were able to push through and make it happen. But I don't want to live with I have no regrets. I regrets in other aspects of life, but no regrets as far as like planning and starting my family now. It happened at the perfect time. I feel like everything as a single person that was supposed to get out of my system has gotten out of is gone. I don't think about like, man, I wish I was out there dating. And I have married friends that are like, man, if my wife would just give me a couple of months to just go out there. Like, first of all, I don't like I feel bad for people that are dating. Like, and I tell my friends, like, it may look nice. So, what they're seeing on Instagram and other things. And I was like, trust me, have a 5-minute conversation with one of these young ladies. You'll probably want to blow your brains out after that. And sort of same with with women, with young men. Like, I'm glad I'm not in that dating pool now. Like it's like, yeah, no regrets or remorse, which is what I'm most excited about.
It's a page on Instagram. It's called there's P in the dating pool. And for sure, there are some situations that you'll come across and you'll be like, OMG, what is going on? Uh, but again, you got to at least know what it is that you want and be honest with yourself to
Yeah.
know whether or not it's something that you want to pursue or not. So very, very important. But I also like that for those that are listening and tuning in, of finding out too that, again, no matter what age, no matter what time, whatever it is that you do, person, place, or thing, have babies, get a house, a different job, and things of the sort. Trust what your process was. Others are always going to say something like, "Oh no, because I'm free." Da, da, da. Yeah, but I'm still good where I am too. It doesn't negate where you are. It doesn't negate
Yeah.
that you were late to the game or whatever it is they want to say. You were on time for what your purpose was, and this is the part that really resonates of that. Of again, you're not being in a rush, living and enjoying life, because some people are not enjoying life. You want to make sure you're enjoying life, and then being open to a blind date that
Yeah.
takes a month for you to call back. No shade. um, it also was the right time then too, because you were ready. Like, all right, let's see where this goes. To now take you to these years later with the babies, a beautiful family. You just gotta trust the process, because when we rush stuff, if you rush the cake in the oven, you're not going to want to eat it if you take it out too soon. You have to trust the process.
Exactly.
Thank you for sharing this. Another
Oh,
part I like too is that you said that after you got married, you stayed with your mother-in-law. And it's like too, when you get older and you turn 18, it's like, I'm gonna be grown on my own, baby. If you are, please, I mean, just stay a little longer. It's hard out in these adult streets
oh,
sometimes.
yeah.
But the embracement that you had to be able to do that, people might frown upon it, but that's smart and wise, because if you go out there too soon and you're not ready, it could crash and then it'll cause some friction, because it's like, we weren't ready, we did this, but you were able to cultivate, get funds together and prepare yourselves before then taking that next step. And I think it's really important for us to be able to really weigh our options and see what is the best for us to do, not what I want to do, what's the best, and that was what was best for you. And so you guys then moved in on your own.
No, exactly. It was, like I said, everything worked how it was supposed to work on the timeline. It was supposed to
Yeah.
work. I'm so glad, because we had almost purchased a house before we got married, and literally the day before signing it fell through. So it was just a big disaster. It fell through, kind of soured both of us to the process, but it just wasn't the time. So our house now is so much of a better house. We got it for so much a better price, better interest rate. All the things worked in our favor. So it's like trust the process. Like yeah, really. And that's what I'm learning. Like I'm trying to be pretty patient, but with a lot of things, with starting a business, with being a good parent, it's it's not always a rush. It's outweighing all your options and then patiently moving forward in the right direction.
Oh, yeah, that fall through. I remember when I was in the process of getting a house at first, they told me no. They was like, just wait a little while, get things together. Got things together. So there was time. And my realtor, bless his heart, I say you were a true brother, friend, and realtor. Because we go to a house, I'm like, I need a place to go. Like, my lease is ending. I'm not renewing where I'm
Oh,
going to go, right? And we go to a house, and he was like, I was like, this is nice, right? He was like, yeah, but no, not for you, because he was looking at safety and things of that sort. And sometimes I
yeah.
just for my head, right? And then I'm so grateful for where I finally settled. And it was funny because I selected a house and then lost house. I was like, oh my gosh, where did it go? I was able to find it again. We came and looked at it. It was like, what's wrong? I was like, nothing. It was legit moving ready. But again, trusting the process, that those that didn't work out or those that I thought that was glitz and glam. And that's in relationships too. Like you'll think that it's glitz and glam because they Coca-Cola bottle, or he's tall, he's got this beard, he's chocolate, he's light skinned, he's vanilla, whatever it is. Sometimes we get caught up in the hoopla and don't really find out what it is underneath. And again, that beauty skin deep of finding out what you're made of, what's the bones look like, to really know who you are and who you're gonna be tried and true. When we really get into a fire, are you gonna be looking out for yourself to get out, or are you gonna help everybody get out? It's the small things.
It literally, when you say that, quick story, I dated this girl. We had gone away for a weekend. We were in a hotel room. Hotel floor was on fire.
Mm.
I heard the alarm, and by the time I looked out, rolled over to see if she had already left. Didn't wake me, didn't was gone. And I get downstairs to the meeting point. She was there. It still her literally her underwear. And I brought stuff. I was like, why didn't you put any? She's like, I smelled smoke. I heard the fire.
Mm.
It's like, but you didn't think to nudge
Mm.
me to say, hey, I think there's a fire here. She's like, oh, you should have heard it. I had to get out. So, literal that's the literal what you had just said. And you have to be with somebody that is
Yeah.
yeah.
Concerned about you. Just a
Yeah.
little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
because at least they come on as you're going out the door. I mean, a little
Yeah.
bit. Let me know.
Yeah.
Oh, so friends, that's the new dating question. If there was a fire, how
Yeah.
would you respond? We're in the house. The house is now catching on fire. What are you doing? Because again, the mind be gone sometimes. You're just trying to survival, but again, survival of those that are around you as well. This is pretty cool. What is something that you would want anybody to know as it relates to relationships or enjoying life and trusting the process of your time? What's a takeaway you want somebody to have of our conversation?
Good communication when you're dating, when you're married. Honesty is always the best policy to see. You can't fool somebody into some kind of situationship. So that communication, that's something I like I said, still even being married, struggle with. And it's a challenge. It's work. So just as you work at just if you go to the gym and you work out, you have to work on yourself. You have to work on your marriage. It's all work. And but I mean it's not I mean, but there's beautiful things come from work. If you're a bodybuilder, your sculpted body comes from your hard work and the
Yeah.
hours you put in the gym. If you're building a business from the ground up, your business being successful comes from the hours of work you put in behind the scenes. So if you want anything, that is exactly it. And so and too many times I think we let Instagram pictures tell
Mhm.
the story of how we think a relationship's going, or even I honestly I don't know what anybody thinks about our relationship. There's work goes behind it, but we genuinely love one another. But it's not all pictures at the zoo with the family. It's
Mhm.
there's work that goes into that as well.
Yeah. Friends, we gotta put in the work sometimes. If you want
Yeah,
it,
If you want it, you may not want it, and that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's being honest, right?
Yeah. Be honest with yourself. That's the first person you gotta be honest with is yourself.
It saves you a lot of trouble.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to the Blending Fab podcast. This podcast has been brought to you by our sponsor, Chosen Counselors. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already, and follow us on Instagram at blending_fab. Check out this snippet from our next episode.
So in the beginning, and a lot of people, they would question sometimes the treatment, how I would treat my mom or things that I would say, because she always presented the best side.
Yes.
And so when we were married, that put him inside the circle, and he witnessed some of the things that I had gone through. And I think that because of that, he was even more so there for me, if that makes sense. So that kind of helped us come together, because he's realizing, oh, okay, she went through some things. If this is what I'm seeing now.
Yeah.
And I was aware enough to know that what my parents had, I did not want. So anything that was remotely close to that wasn't gonna work. And so I think it was because of that, and because of our friendship, and because of that mutual respect for each other, we were able to, when those things popped up, we were able to work through them. Like I said, some of the choices that were made were from pressure from my mom. And so the two of us get caught up in it. So we can sit there and think, we let her do it again.
And we talked about it. We discussed we discussed every situation, and how you feel about it. Okay, this is how I feel about it. Well, and sometimes we had to bend over and just accept whatever, because the situation we were in.
One example of people questioning how I would treat her. When after our son, but before our daughter, somebody asked me, when are y'all gonna have another one? And before I could speak, my mom said, I think we're gonna wait until he's about 4.
Wait.
And I looked at her and said, could you please not regulate my womb?